farming is one of the most efficient way of generating seller leads. However, this is one of the things that most agents struggle with. During the Power Hour interview today, I've got a very special guest for you, Luke Acree, an authority on leadership, a lead generating specialist, and a referral expert who passionately believes that business runs on relationships. By teaching the principles of relationship marketing, he's helped more than 100,000 entrepreneurs and small businesses grow their companies. He's grown his own company, Reminder Media, to over 300 million in sales and earned a place in the Inc. 500 list of fastest growing companies in America 4 years in a row. Luke is going to break down the exact strategy he's been using with thousands of real estate agents on how not only to leverage your local brand in order to attract sellers at scale, but simultaneously what he's teaching all of these agents to do in order to dominate a local farm area in this market, allowing them to build authority and recognition. He's going to break down exactly what these agents are sending to their neighborhoods, how they're nurturing their prospects, and what you can do in order to build massive momentum in a farm area in your market. And also, he will be talking about the mindset you need to have in order to thrive with these strategies. So let's dive in.
And thank you for those who have their camera on. I've done a lot of Zooms and you don't normally get to see people's faces. So I enjoy so much more seeing people's faces. Appreciate that. We're going to talk about getting listings today, specifically through geographic farming. So I'll share my screen because I have some slides to walk you guys through, but feel free to raise your hand. Interactive Zooms are always so much better. So if you have questions and you want to speak up or chime in, feel free to do that throughout the presentation. Like Jessica said, my name's Luke. I'm the president of a company called Reminder Media. You might know us from our customizable magazine. So we've been in business for about 18 years now. Our flagship product was a magazine called American Lifestyle, still out there today. But we have many more magazines. We do postcards, we do Facebook advertising, digital marketing, have had the privilege of leading Reminder Media for over a decade now. And last year worked with about 60,000 real estate agents. So over the span of kind of working with agents, have worked with about 136,000 and have done millions of pieces of direct mail, millions spent on Facebook advertising, organic and paid. And I don't say any of that to impress you. It's really just to impress upon you that, hey, what I'm going to share with you today are things that I'm doing for my clients, things that I do for my own business to grow Reminder Media. So I have about 330 employees now, all across the nation. So it's stuff that I'm implementing in my business. And not only that, my brother, I convinced to get into real estate about 6 years ago. And now he runs the #1 team in Lynchburg, Virginia. I think he's 4 in the state of Virginia. So you can kind of have some assurance and confidence that what I'm sharing with you are stuff that we've kind of walked through. And by no means is it a magic formula. We obviously help clients with this stuff every single day. But my goal is to give you what has worked for us and our clients. And that way you can either come to us and we can help you with it. You can do it yourself. You can take it back to the company that you're using to help you get listings, because it's more important than ever with everything that's going on with the market right now to become the listing agent. I know that's what I want. I know that's probably what you guys want. If you are interested in podcasting, we had Andrea on our podcast. It's been a couple of years now. So if you've never heard of our podcast, it's called Stay Paid. Have done about 500, I think 550 plus episodes at this point, and have interviewed some of the best in the business, like Andrea, people like Tom Ferry, Kevin Ward, some of the great coaches out there. And I'll share some of the insights that I've learned from them on today's presentation. So this is all about geographic farming. How do you farm to get listings? I always think it's good to start with setting expectations and getting everybody aligned. And so what I mean by that is, what is farming and how should you enter into choosing whether or not you should add farming as a lead gen pillar in your business or not? And the biggest mistake that I've seen over the years with real estate agents is we tend to slowly spend our way out of the business. And you probably have experienced this before, where you've bought a marketing platform or you've done something in marketing and you do it for a month. And then you jump to the next marketing piece, and then you jump to the next marketing piece. And in essence, you never actually get success, and you're slowly spending yourself out of the business. Farming, inherent in the word, is a long-term game. So do not get into farming if you're not willing to be in it for the long term to build a brand. The goal is I want to make you the Nike of real estate in your community. When people think real estate, they think you. How do you get people to know, like, and trust you? I was interviewed on a podcast by Joshua Smith. If you don't know who he is, he has a great podcast called GSD Mode. He's top 1% real estate agent out in Arizona. And I was able to ask him, I said, hey, Josh, because he built a lot of his business through farming, what would you suggest in terms of a time horizon for getting into farming as a marketing strategy? What should the expectation be? And he said he would not get into farming if you are not willing to be in it for at least 12 months with no return. So you should go into it with the mindset that I'm going to spend for 12 months. I'm going to put sweat equity into this community for 12 months. And even if I don't get a deal, I'm going to stay with it. And he says, if you don't enter in with that type of mindset, you're already setting yourself up to fail. Now, I believe you'll get return before the 12-month mark, but I think that is so important to enter in with the proper expectation, just like a farmer ends up tilling the soil, planting the seed, watering the seed, taking care of the harvest. It takes all that work to reap the harvest in farming, the same as it does if you are actually going to plant and try to produce something from the actual farming. And so I want to get into the types of farming because most people think of farming and they think of it literally just geographic farming, but there's a couple different types of farming. So there's geofarming, which is the most common. Maybe you want to farm the neighborhood you live in. Maybe you have a specific zip code or community that you want to be known in. But there's also what's called demographic or niche-based farming. So this is taking a characteristic about a target audience, honing in and building a list based upon that characteristic set. So my brother, he goes after, because he works with a lot of investors too, he goes after absentee owners. So he'll use the characteristic of absentee owners to build a list to now farm to that list. So maybe for you, you want to work with first-time home buyers. So you're targeting renters to turn them into home buyers, or you're targeting luxury real estate. You're taking characteristics of an audience set that you want, narrowing down and using that as a way to build a list. And then the third type of farming has really come onto the scene strong the last 5 years, which is called predictive farming. So predictive farming is using big data to try to make correlations to where you can try to predict who is likely to list. Have you guys heard of this before? Predictive analytics, big data?
Yes.
Some people are nodding their head. Okay. So this is, we have an algorithm here at Reminder Media. These algorithms are about 24% accurate. So that means 1 out of 4 names that it predicts actually does end up listing in the next 12 to 24 months. And I'm not a data scientist, but to give you kind of an oversimplification, what this is doing is it's taking public record, so tax record, property record, purchasing record, search records if they're out there, and it's trying to aggregate all this data and make correlations, because people tend to sell their homes when life events have taken place. So if Megan and I, my wife, if we had a third kid right now, we only have 2. I don't think I could handle 3 at this point. But if we had a third kid and we lived in a 2-bedroom, you could easily make a correlation that Luke and Megan, they live in a home that's a 2-bedroom. They have 3 kids. They're more than likely going to need a bigger home, and they're going to, try to upgrade here soon. So it's making correlations in the data like that to try to predict in your farm who is most likely to move. I always recommend to my clients that you should try to layer on these. So you should pick the geographic area you want to be known in. You should narrow down based upon demographic information. And then you should overlay predictive analytics to understand where to put your sweat equity. So the check equity is what you write a company like Reminder Media to do your postcards, your emails, stuff like that. Your sweat equity is, where am I going to focus my door knocking potential, my phone call potential, my client event potential? And so you don't have time to maybe hit all 500 homes that you're farming to. But if you knew the 50 people that you could go after in your farm that have correlations that are likely to move, that's where you could focus your time. So I encourage people that when you choose a farm, choose on geographic information, but most data companies can provide you demographic and predictive analytics if they're a list provider. Okay, so how many of you guys actually farm today? So I'm going to pull you back up on my screen so I can see you. Can you kind of raise your either digital or physical hand so I can see how many people actually farm? Okay, we got a couple people. Okay, awesome. It just gives me a feel for how deep to go into strategy-wise to give you as much relevant information as possible. So if you're farming, oh, go ahead, Andrea.
No, I was just saying, go as deep as you wish.
Okay,
People
awesome.
are interested in farming, trust me.
Okay. So if you are farming and you're not getting a lot of deals out of your farm, or you're thinking about farming, here's what I recommend when it comes to choosing a farm. So there's a bunch of different criteria I look at. One of the main things I look at is how much competition is in your current farm. So if you're sitting today going, hey, I want to farm my neighborhood, what I would do to you right now is go to your MLS. I would look the past year, 2, 3 years, look at all the sales that have happened in that area. Look at the names of the agents that have sold those homes. And if you see one agent's name coming up 30, 40% of the time, that means that agent has a pretty big hold on that area. Doesn't mean you can't overtake them, but you have to understand that they're probably already farming that area. They've built brand in that area. It's going to cost you more money and more time to try to get your name out in front. So try to choose a farm where there's not one dominant agent that owns 30 to 40% of that market. There's going to be a myriad of agents obviously selling and helping people buy within a market, but there's not one single agent that has a huge hold. So I look at the competition and try to choose one where there's not one agent that has 30 to 40% of the listings that happen. Second thing I would look at is the number of homes that you farm to. This is dictated by your budget, because ultimately the most important thing in farming is brand recognition. So that's going to cost me time and money to get in front of Jessica. So you need to think with forethought of going, if I choose 250 homes or 500 homes, can I get in front of those homes at least once a month with some form of marketing? That's minimum once a month. And so you can kind of start doing the math to go, wow, I can afford to do about 500 homes to where I can hit them 1 to 2 times a month and actually be able to build my brand with them. Some people, they end up choosing these huge farms, but they try to hit them once a quarter, and it's not enough to build a brand. To give you a comparison, I was speaking on a panel in Arizona, and it was an insurance conference. And one of the people on the panel beside me did a lot of marketing and insurance, specifically with Geico. And he shared on this panel, and I thought it was really interesting. Geico Insurance tries to get in front of their consumers 37 times a month. They're trying to get in front of you to switch your car insurance to Geico 37 times a month, from billboards to commercials to radio to mailers to emails. They're trying to hit you that often. Most people in business make this mistake. They think that you can hit people too many times. It is almost impossible to hit consumers too many times. It is really easy to hit them too little. My minimum for people to try to build up to is 26 touch points a year. That's basically every 2 weeks you're in front of people. So that's the goal. I interviewed a guy, Jordan Mott, on the podcast Stay Paid. You guys should look him up. He's pretty amazing because he's out in Silicon Valley. He does over 100 million in volume. It's just him as an agent. I think he has like an admin transaction coordinator on his team, but he does over 100 million. Now, home prices are a lot higher, but he's still selling, I think, like 60 or so homes a year. And what's interesting with him is he farms to 100,000 homes every 3 weeks. 100,000. Why do I put him as kind of an extreme? Because your goal should be to get up to 100,000. Your goal should be to keep growing your farm, because why wouldn't you want everybody in your local area to know about you? So what's the limiting factor? Why can you just not start today, Andrea, and hit 100,000 people? It's your budget that limits you. So my brother, Steven, he started at 250 homes. He's worked his way up to 4,000, where he's consistently dripping on those 4,000. A good benchmark to start is to try to be around that 250 mark. That's where we encourage clients to be. But the goal is to add on, and you have to be able to hit them at least once a month, working up to 2 times. Now, this is the most important piece to look at when choosing a farm, and it's the turnover rate. So if you don't know how to calculate turnover rate, kind of here's the formula on the screen for you. So this is, you want to take the number of homes sold in the area you're trying to go after, and divide it by the number of rooftops in that area. So if you looked at, maybe it was the neighborhood you live in, and 10 homes in your neighborhood sold last year, and you had 100 rooftops, like 100 homes in your area, that would be a 10% turnover rate. So when I got the chance to interview Tom Ferry, so he's obviously the #1 coach in real estate, I asked him, what's your recommended turnover that you see from clients? And he recommended about 6%. So they try to target farms with at least 6% turnover, where 6% of the homes are selling every year in that specific area. So I put down below, you guys might have a better place, please share if you have it, of where you could maybe find the number of homes sold or the number of homes in the area. And sometimes your broker can help you with this stuff. But those are some of the places we've gone to find it. And we've heard from other agents that we've worked with. But take a couple years, especially in this COVID or post-COVID market, like things have been super interesting the last 3 years. So I would take like a 3-year average of turnover to try to choose what the actual turnover rate is and try to target at least 6%. One caveat is if you farm to luxury homes, you can afford a little lower percentage of turnover, maybe 4%, because the price point is so much higher. The commission you get is so much more. You can afford to farm for longer marketing wise to be able to generate that sale. So just a key point there. Going back here, let me go back real quick. Choosing a farm, 2 points that I didn't put on here, but I want to mention. I believe in community farming over transaction farming. So transactional farming is just marketing to a list of homes, and you're just getting your brand in front of them and hoping they come to you based upon brand recognition. Community farming is you're trying to actually get known in that community from a relationship standpoint, and people see you as kind of what Gary Vee would call the local mayor. I've just seen community farmers always outpace transactional farmers. So if you are a veteran agent, one tip I would give you, and let's see if I can share it on my screen. Can you guys see my Google Maps right now? No?
Yes.
Okay. So if you go to maps.google.com, you do, I believe, need a Gmail account to do this, but they're free, so you can start one. If you go to your menu and go to like saved, it will give you the ability to create a map. So if you go over, it will say map. You can create down here a map. That I think will open up a new tab. And what this does, if I hit create, this will allow me to import a CSV file or an Excel file. What I would do if I were you, take all of your past sales, all the past buyers you've ever worked with and the addresses you put them in, upload that list of addresses to Google Maps. What will happen, and I just grabbed an Excel doc from my brother and put it in there, it will pin drop all the addresses. And why do I want you to do this? Because you will see from all your past sales where you naturally have energy. Where has synergy already taken place? Where has energy, where's your brand already been built, where you've done open houses, where you have clients in that area already? You maybe should think about starting a farm in some of those popular places. This is also a great marketing piece. Steven's list that I pulled is just too many, but like, let's say you had 50, 60, 70, and you're pin dropping here, screenshot that, post that on your social, use that on a mailer. It's also a great marketing piece, but it's a way to see where you have energy or synergy with your brand happening already. Another thing to think about is, where are you living from a standpoint of out and about in the community? Where do your kids go to school? Where do you go to church? Where do you go to the gym? Where do you shop for groceries? Where do you get your coffee? When people see you as a physical person, it transcends being kind of this big box corporate company that nobody wants to work with, and they actually get to know Luke Acree, the agent. So if you can be a community farmer, that's great. Second point I would make, you know the market way better than me. So I do a lot of real estate investing, right? And some of the places I invest in real estate, buying properties, flipping properties, is in the up and coming parts of town that people would not want to go to, but I know that's where it's headed to get a great return on investment. You know that. So maybe it's worth it if the turnover rate's not quite there, but you know this area in the next 3 years is going to be the area. Don't be afraid to try to get, your seeds planted in that area to own that place. So that's another point I would make in choosing the farm. Farming works because 81% of sellers and 70% of buyers interview one agent according to NAR. So this was their last trends report. 81% of sellers and 70% of buyers interview one agent before choosing the agent they work with. People always think people choose the best real estate agent. They don't. They choose the most known. If you think about the doctor you chose, the dentist you chose, did you really do your research to choose the absolute best dentist? Or did you get on Google and just choose the most convenient one, or get referred by your mom, your brother, your cousin, whoever? And we all know, yeah, it's not really the best that we go for. It's the easiest, it's the most convenient. It has to hit a benchmark, a threshold of trust. So you have to have a certain level of reviews as a dentist. You have to have been in business a certain amount of time. But after you've hit that certain threshold, it's all about just being the most known. Another thing that farming does that people underestimate, I'm a referral guy for 18 years. We have been #1 in getting touch points like the magazine to your client database to generate referrals. But the problem I've seen with referrals, I still think it's #1 for your lead source pillar. But the one issue it brings is that if Andrea's referred to me, I can't control the listing price. I don't know what type of buyer or seller Andrea is. She's easier to work with, but she might have a $150,000 home to work with, where I really want to work with $500,000 homes. Farming is awesome because it can build a scalable business. If I want to raise my listing price to $300,000, and right now I work at $240,000, don't choose a farm where there's or less than $300,000 homes. Choose a farm where there's only $300,000 homes or more, because now you know what your potential GCI is. And here's where it gets good from a scalable standpoint. So if I'm you, I would go and I choose a farm and I look at the price point. I'd look at the turnover rate. So for example, maybe I'm trying to get from a $150,000 price point to $200,000. So all of a sudden I choose this farm, it's 100 homes and there's a 10% turnover rate. So I know there's 10 homes that are going to be sold this year in that neighborhood. I'm not going to get them all. Nobody gets them all. Could I get 20% of them? Could I get 30%? Let's say I get 20% for easy math. That means I'm going to get 2 sales this year. So 2 sales, and I know they're going to be $200,000. That means a $6,000 commission. So that's $12,000 I'm going to get in GCI from those 2 sales. I need to be spending about 20% of that on my marketing. So now I know what my marketing budget's going to be. You guys know your splits. All of a sudden you can start reverse engineering and calculating, okay, this is what I can expect from my farm. These are my goals. And now at the end of every year or end of every quarter, you can see, am I tracking budget-wise for what I'm spending on my marketing to get those 2 deals? Am I tracking on return on investment? And it keeps you accountable to build a scalable business. And this is why Tom Ferry, his #2 lead source for all of his 4,000 elite coaching clients is farming. #1, Sphere. #2, when he surveyed them, farming. Because it becomes a predictable methodology that they can work over and over again and build and build and build. So that's one of the reasons I put exponential growth as well, because in your strategy of farming, so Andrea, when you're farming your neighborhood and you get your first listing, here's where it gets so good from a branding standpoint. You were hitting them once a month. All of a sudden you get your first listing. Guess what you can now do? You can now do a just list it. Boom, that's another touch point. So instead of 12 touch points, now you're at 13. Not only that, you can door knock the closest 50 homes and invite them to an open house. You can do the open house. After you sell the home, you can do it just sold. Now you can go back to those same 50 homes that you invited to the open house and offer them a free CMA and letting them know that the house sold. If you're following my train of thought here, you've gone from 12 touch points to literally you're getting up to 16 touch points from one listing, and your yard signs are out there. People start saying the magic words that we all want to hear, which is, I see Andrea everywhere, which elevates her as the authority on real estate in this market, which is why people will choose her versus the competition. So there's this exponential flywheel that starts happening, that once you start getting listings, you can advertise those listings, which gets your brand more known, which allows you to take over the mind share from the competition, and 81% of sellers choose the first agent they think of. So, all right, so let me stop there. Any questions on that stuff so far? And then I'll jump into the type of content you should be sending. And let me look at the time here, because it's a lot of information, I know. Okay, 9:39. Any questions, or I'll keep moving?
we're good on time, no worries. If anybody has questions, please reach your hand or put it in the chat box. I think what you're saying is fantastic, and we can't thank you enough for going through this with us. And I just want to mention how important it is in the market like this, where it's important to become a seller agent, to consider farming, even though is considered in the social media world as an old kind of style of generating leads, but you are in the media. And I want to emphasize that. And if you can just for a second, make it clear to all of the agents here, but all the ones that they're going to see the recording, that it's not an old technique. It's just the technique.
Bingo. You're actually hitting on, let me see if I can go. Okay. So this framework, frequency, impact, and trust, I call it my FIT framework. This came out of looking at, we had done like 500 million email campaigns, hundreds of millions of pieces of direct mail, and then of course, millions on paid advertising. And what Josh and I, my partner in crime here, we're trying to figure out is from our data, what is it that makes a successful campaign versus non-successful campaigns? And one of the key things we found, which touches on what you're seeing, Andrea, is this word called frequency, which is, it's not just the frequency of touch point, which is so critical, that 26 touch points, but even as important as the frequency of touch point is the channel of touch point. So there's this thing that Jason Pantana taught me. If you guys don't know Jason, he's an incredible marketer that you should follow on social. And I was talking to Jason about omni-channel marketing, and he said, well, you know why omni-channel marketing works? He goes, it touches on the frequency illusion. And the frequency illusion is super powerful. We've all bought a car before, and we start seeing that car everywhere, right? Does that happen to you? Like you go to even look to buy a car and you start seeing it everywhere. And what that is if you've ever studied the brain, there's this thing called the reticulating activating system, which basically its job is to block out the things that don't matter and only allow your brain to focus on the things that matter. And so because the car became important to you, it now allowed it to register up there in the RAS system, which allowed you to see it. It wasn't that you weren't actually seeing it, it just wasn't important, so you didn't see it. So the frequency illusion is a similar phenomenon in psychology, which states if somebody sees you on multiple frequencies, 2 or more. So what's a frequency? Direct mail, social media, email, phone calls, face-to-face, screen-to-screen. There's 6 frequencies in marketing. If they see you on 2 or more frequencies, their brain makes them think they've seen you more than they have. So if you see me in your mailbox tonight from my magazine or a postcard that I send you, and then you get on your Facebook page and you see me on Facebook, all of a sudden, your brain makes it think that you're seeing me more than you are, which registers in your RAS system, which makes me more important. Why does that matter? 81% of sellers choose the first agent they think of. So any advantage you can get, to touch on what you're saying, Andrea, it's, yeah, maybe print is older, but it's just tapping a different frequency, which gets you seen. I would make the argument that as mailbox letters have gone down, right? Mailbox mail has gone down, the viability of getting seen has risen. So even in the olden days, you get 40 pieces of mail per mailbox. Now you get a couple pieces of mail per mailbox versus email. So it doesn't mean you don't do email. It doesn't mean you don't do print. It means you do a combination of all of them to get the most you can out of being on the frequencies to trigger that frequency illusion to get first. So frequency matters. What matters just as much as frequency, I call it impact, which is the content. I call this my 3 E's of content, which is entertainment, education, and endearment. So most people make the mistake is they only educate. And if you put yourself in the consumer's shoes, you know, you've bought a car before. If your car dealership just sends you a bunch of information on cars, what do you tend to do with that info? From email, postcards, whatever, you're probably like me, you glance at it. If you're not in the buying mode for whatever that promo is, you don't need an oil change right now, you tend to toss it. So what I encourage people is 60% of your touch points should be education. That should be your home values. I'll actually skip forward so you can see that. Like, curious to know how much your home's worth. Just listed, just sold. Beat the heat and chill your bill. How to save money. with your home, how to increase the value of your home, all these types of templates we have with our system that we give people to educate their clients on, hey, I'm the subject matter expert when it comes to real estate. But then you want 30% of your touch points to be entertaining. Nothing to do with real estate, just content that you can send. Our most popular piece of content are recipes, believe it or not, still to this day. But another piece, so we have a digital marketing bundle where we do a local events email for our clients. We curate the local events. So I'm right now in Sandbridge, Virginia. So we would curate the local events happening around Sandbridge. We put it in an email newsletter, brand it to the real estate agent, and send it out to their database saying, here's what's happening in Sandbridge, Virginia the next 2 weeks. Not only things like concerts, but more importantly, like the festival or the farmer's market, the painting class, things like that. That's one of our most popular emails versus a real estate email. Why? Because it's more important to the consumer, so they pay attention to it. If you want to earn the business when people are in the 1%, meaning the buying mode, you got to show up for them in the 99%. So you got to be there in the way they live their life, travel, art, food, where they're going on vacation, things like that. This one, for the sake of time, is my favorite. So I want to jump to it. Endearing content. So endearing content, I think, is the hidden gem, and it won't be for long in real estate because I've been trying to preach this and get the word out on it. So if you're not partnered with a charity right now or multiple things to give back in your community, you're missing out on an amazing opportunity to grow your brand. So I grew up the son of a pastor. My dad's a pastor in Charlottesville, Virginia. So he's been a pastor for like 35 years. Why do I mention that? Well, my dad's like a little local influencer in his community. In Fluvanna County, Virginia, he knows everybody. Everybody knows him. His whole life has been dedicated to charitable work. So when you get involved with charities, you get connected to local influencers, not the Instagram influencer, the relationship influencer. And when you're supporting what they do because you actually care about it, they obviously reciprocate not only through intros, but through promoting you. I've seen it time and time again. Now, don't give to charity just because of what it gives to your business. Choose something that you're passionate about. Local SPCA, the food bank, maybe it's the Boys and Girls Club, the PTA, the Little League. How can you get involved? My brother's most popular mailing campaign is when he supports the Agape House in Lynchburg, Virginia. It's a food bank in Lynchburg. And what he does is he does a food drive for them. He just did it not too long ago, where he sends out 4,000 to his farm, a postcard that raises awareness. I'm collecting food donations for the Agape House. He then takes his team and they go door knock on those farms and collect the canned goods, so they get a face-to-face with the homeowner. So, which is awesome. Now it's a non-salesy talking point that I have. Then he gets all the canned goods delivered. People drop them by his office as well. He takes a picture of everything collected, weighs it, sends a thank you out to the same community. So another touch point saying, thank you, we were able to raise this much and, donated this much in canned goods. And it's an incredible brand awareness campaign that supports something he's passionate about. Someone on his team, one of the agents, their mom runs the Agape House. So it's something he's connected to. And he every year has so many great testimonials of people telling him, we love what you do for the community. We love how you're giving back. And there's this thing in psychology called the halo effect. So if you see me, Mary, doing something good, maybe I'm taking care of the homeless or something like that. In psychology, the halo effect states that you take that good that you see me doing it and you associate it with the other things I do. So, wow, look how Luke's giving back. This is how he treats his clients. Look how Luke's giving back. This is how he runs his real estate business. Again, you should never give to charity. I always have to state this because I just want to make sure people know. You should never give to charity just because of what it does for your business. You should choose something you're truly passionate about that actually up and builds your community. But why do you think the Fortune 50 companies all have a charity? Why do you think they run marketing commercials for their charities? These people are beholden to the shareholders. They have to make money. They have to raise the stock. And they're taking marketing money to run TV commercials for a charity. Why? Because they know consumers. And they know consumers want to do business with businesses of purpose, not just businesses of profit. So how do you elevate who you are in your real estate business? That yes, I'm a local real estate expert. Yes, if you need help buying, selling, investing, I'm your person. But at the end of the day, I love this community and my business is more than just about profit. And if you do that, we know the Zig Ziglar saying it's about getting known, liked, and trusted. One form of trust is built on common values. How do you share your common values, right? If you know I'm a father and you're also a father, we have common values, rapport is starting to be built. If you know I have dogs and you have dogs, right? Commonality, common values builds rapport, which builds trust, which builds likability. And we all know it's about getting known, liked, and trusted. That's the key. Okay, so let's wrap up with talking about frequency of touch point. And two mailing campaigns that I recommend because we've tested them. These are straight out of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, if you guys have never read that book. So when I got into postcards, it's almost been, I guess, 6 years ago now. I wasn't positive on the type of campaigns I wanted to try. So like everybody, I've read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book multiple times. Those campaigns, the 8x8 and the monthly campaign were in there. So I decided to test them. We've had great results with them. The 8x8 campaign is a great campaign for a new farm, or if you're trying to re-energize your farm. So I'll share a story with you to drive home the power of this. Bubba Mills, a coach in the industry, is the one that educated me on this. Hobbs and Herder did a study where they wanted to test the power of frequency with an 8x8 campaign. So they went to a neighborhood, I believe it was around 300 homes, and they knocked on the homeowners' doors and they asked them this question. They said, homeowner Jessica, who's the #1 agent in this area? And they did it for all the homeowners and they got a myriad of different names. Nobody was the dominant agent. So they came back and Hobbs and Herder created a fake real estate agent, fake name, fake picture, fake credentials, and did an 8x8 campaign, which is one mailing a week for 8 straight weeks. They went back to the same homeowners, knocked on the same doors, asked the same question. You guys have probably figured out the punchline. Jessica, who's the #1 agent in this area? And the majority of homeowners chose the fake real estate agent. Think about that for a second. So if you have any excuse right now of, oh, I'm new, I don't have a lot of homes, I don't have the certifications I need, that's why I'm not winning the business. That's all excuses. It's not about being the best. It's about being the most known. Starbucks doesn't have the best coffee. They're just on every street corner. How do you get on every street corner? How do you make it to where your people today, your neighbor, just as to draw it close to home, your neighbor, they wake up today, they need help buying, selling, investing. Do they think your name? How do you make that happen? And you and I both know there's only one way to make that happen. How do I get in front of them consistently over long periods of time and things that provide value to them, but also elevate me as the agent of trust, the person that knows real estate inside and out. So when they need help with real estate, they naturally think, Luke, I do this with my podcast. I want to be known for marketing. So what do? I produce a podcast every week on sales and marketing, put it out in the industry through email, through web, through obviously the medium of audio. We use that in our magazine. We take the stuff that we've interviewed people on. We have a business magazine called Business in Action. We take those articles, we put it in our print magazine, and we send it out. I send thousands of my print magazine. I am putting out educational content, but also value-driven content consistently to my consumers. So my hope is that when Jessica needs help with marketing, or Andrea, who can I get on the Power Hour? Well, let me get Luke. He's always talking about sales and marketing. He interviewed me on his podcast and they bring me in. It works the same in my business. And so I would encourage you, if you're starting a new farm, an 8x8 campaign is great. Then roll them into what is called a 12 direct campaign, which is one mailing a month for 12 straight months. The conversion on that is usually about 2%. So it's 1 out of every 50 homes turns into a transaction opportunity. I encourage people, try to move up to being 2 times a month. That's a budget issue. I have a client, Frank Isolde. He's out of New Jersey, Coldwell banker. He does like 60 million in volume by himself. Now, he farms every 2 weeks. And I share him as an example. We have a podcast with him as well. You guys can go listen to. But the idea is you want to grow your touch points minimum once a month. I have seen the best farmers, though, do what I call our proactive interactions once a quarter. So do the 12 direct program once a month. But then once a quarter, how are you interacting human to human with the people in your farm? So that could be a phone call. That could be door knocking. A really cool one is a client event. If you guys know Katie Lucy, she's on Broke Agent Media right now, writing a bunch of articles of real estate agents. Awesome. We just interviewed her. She's also a client of ours. She does like this. She rented, it's like this lake area in her community. And she rented a food truck and invited everybody in the farm to come get free food at this food truck. Didn't cost very much since it. Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, because I want to be mindful of your time, but I wanted to ask a question, which is exactly what you started talking about. If you can give us a couple of examples of amazing events for farming purposes that people can do, that would be fantastic. So go ahead.
Yep. So food truck is a popular one. Ice cream truck is another one that is really good because it would cost you $800 sometimes, and you can get free popsicles and ice cream to the whole community. Works really well, obviously, in communities that have kids. Another one I've seen that has been done well is like a shredding truck. So you rent like a shredding / junk truck, and people can bring their old documents and can bring their old stuff to throw in there. So I've seen that one. That has been popular as well. I've seen people partner with the HOA in the actual community that they're farming to put on events. So they basically help sponsor the HOA's event that's happening already. If you want to tie it, a lot of people do this, tie it to your client events. So Garrett Maroon is a client of mine in Virginia Beach, and this guy is just a beast at relationship marketing. He has like 300 people in his database, and he closed 86 deals from like 300 people in his database. And he's just so relationship driven. But one of the things he does is he rents the local park, but it's not really any money to rent it. You just have to, book the time. So the local picnic shelters and stuff. Hires basically a college student photographer that's building their portfolio, good photographer, gets donuts and coffee from the local, Dunkin' Donuts type idea. And he invites all his farm and his clients to get photos, family photos at the local park. And it's great because his top clients, he actually prints off the photos, frames them, and takes it to his top 20%. So now he's giving them something extra special, but for everybody, they can come get free family photos at the local park. Another lady who does this really well is Shannon Gillette. If you guys have never heard of Shannon, she's in Real. I think, Andrea, you're in Real, right?
Yes.
So she's amazing, but she does family photos. Another thing that she does from the charity side is she's very big on supporting like foster kids. So she has her client base come out and help shop around Christmas time with foster kids. And they put on this huge event. I think they partner with the Purpose Movement, I think is what it's called. And she basically invites her whole client base and everybody to come help these foster kids shop. I think it's at the local Walmart. It's pretty amazing. You guys can follow her on Instagram. I follow her. She's incredible. So those are just some ideas. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And thank you so much for sharing with us. I think besides some of the basics that some of us farmers we know, you shared some really good new ideas that I'm excited. I took notes, and we're gonna start implementing it. If anybody has any questions, this is the time. We have literally 2 minutes left. Raise your hand. I can't see everyone unless you turn off your Luke, you're sharing.
Oh, sorry about that. Yep.
Yeah. No worries. Anybody has any questions for Lucas? This is the time if you're farming, if you have any questions. No questions. No worries.
I'm gonna chat in a URL if you want to jump on a call. Shannon Gillette is who did the foster kids event. So you can look her up on Instagram. She's pretty popular on Instagram and YouTube right now. But if you want to book a call, obviously, we'd love to help you with farming, but no obligation at all on there. But if you fill out your information, not only does it claim a deal where you get 50 free postcards, 1,000 addresses for free, and a landing page, but you'll be able to, on a calendar, book a call with us, and we'll be able to walk you through and kind of learn about what you're trying to do and see if it's a fit for your business and how we can either help your current farming situation or start a farm. So that page right there, remindermedia.com/farm2024, you should be able to just fill out your information. And then the next step 2 would be, I think, a calendar on that. So
beautiful. There are a couple of other things that we haven't touched base on, but hopefully we'll have you back, or anybody reach out to Luke, because this is his specialty in idea of how you can actually combine the social media into your farming and add to the touches that you mentioned, but also, you know, going further, let's say the paid social media and the ads, which I know, Luke, that you're part of that as well. So all of that, Luke, where can they find you? I know you put here your link, but more popular on Instagram. Let us know where everybody can find you.
I just chatted in my Instagram handle at Luke Acree, so you can connect with me there. Shoot me a DM. We can connect up. But you will find me on Facebook at Luke Acree. RM stands for Reminder Media. RM is where you'll find me on Facebook, and then Luke Acree on LinkedIn. And then my company, of course, is Reminder Media. We're most known probably for our magazines, but we do postcards, we do digital marketing, we do paid advertising now. Last year, we worked with about 60,000 real estate agents.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We have one question before I let you go.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you recommend the scanning QR code campaigns in your drip campaigns?
Absolutely. Yep. We put QR codes on our postcards and magazines all the time. That was the one good thing out of COVID, QR codes coming back. It was a marketer's dream, you know, when they came back at restaurants, because everybody's used to it now. But yeah, we do QR codes created right in our system. But if you are doing mailings, you should definitely do QR codes. One of our most popular mailings right now is want to know what your home's worth, scan this QR code. Or if you know the equity that has grown in your area, equity has gone up by $30,000 for the normal homeowner. Want to find out how much you've gone up? Scan this QR code. And it takes them to a landing page where they can fill out their address. It gives them what the internet thinks their home's worth, sends the lead right to our client. The client reaches out with a professional CMA, and we kind of have the funnel worked out for them there. But that's one of our most popular mailings right now.
Somebody's asking if your content of what you're doing is relevant for Canadians. And I know that you're working with Canadians. So, yeah.
Well, I think, you know, consumers, I don't know about Canadians, no offense, you know, but no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think consumers are obviously similar, but you have to adjust, you know, your entertaining content, your educational content, stuff like that. You have to adjust that in order to, you know, reach your target audience, because everybody's different. Some people work with investors, some people work with buyers, some people work with sellers, some people work with $200,000 homes, some people work with luxury. So it's depending on the person, they adjust a little bit of the creative based upon the consumers, but it's great.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Luke.
Yeah.
Actually, when we start talking about you coming on Power Hour, you mentioned to me 3 different subjects to pick from. And if you guys want to see Luke again, because he has 2 other subjects that I think that would be fantastic for us to hear him on it. And again, if you reach out to him to use his company, that's something that you may get even deeper into it, is one, to get referrals, how to get referrals, and the other one, how to get listings, which are both amazing subjects. We have one more question before we let you go. Lurie, I want to be mindful of your time. Susan, what's your question? Just unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself because we can't hear you.
You're on mute, Susan. We can't hear you.
Okay. I'm just saying thank you, Jessica, for inviting me, and Andrea for this great opportunity, and Luke for the amazing information. I have a quick question for you. I want to start farming my area. Do I exclude the houses recently sold because they have a lower chance to sell in the near future?
Great question. If you have the budget to include them, I would include them. If budget is a concern, which it always is, so it's kind of a rhetorical question in a way, but I would exclude them because they are not your ideal target, because they just moved. So I would exclude them. But the reason why I made the caveat at the beginning of if you can afford to hit them, I would of course do that, because you want to own that community. Everybody inside and out. But most of the time, you can't afford to just hit everybody and anybody. So I would exclude them.
Okay, so starting 250, we focus on that they haven't sold yet. The house.
Yep. And then cream of the crop as you start your farm. Who are the FSBOs? Who are the absentee owners? Who are the expired listings within the farm that you're going after? ID those people immediately in the farm.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so when you grab your farm, you immediately want to look at who in the farm is a for sale by owner. So looking on forsalebyowner.com, Zillow, those type of places. What are the expired listings within your farm that have happened? Not just recently, but go back a time period. And then who are the absentee owners within the farm?
Okay.
ID those people, because those are a different approach that you can take on those.
Amazing.
We'll go on a question on the chat first, Janelle. What are some of the ideas of educational content that you can give us quickly?
Yep. Education most popular is want to know what your home's worth. Second to that would be the market report for the area. So here's what's happening in your local market. Education would also be just listed, just sold. Education then at a higher level would be things like you can renovate your kitchen to increase your home value by X%. You can do this to your landscaping. A great educational piece that is really popular is who are your partners? Title company, inspectors, electricians, contractors, mortgage lenders. How do you partner with them to get them to pay for the mailing to your farm, but educate on their topic? And you're the connector, right? So you're bringing the advice from the lender sent out to the farm, lenders paying for it, but your brand, their brand. Same with the contractor or the plumber. That's great educational content because it's synergistic to the home. You can get the partner on board. They can help you pay for the event and the mailing and so forth.
Beautiful. Janelle, if you have a quick question, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious if you recommend, so in combination with geofarming, of course, targeting your social media specifically to that region in particular, because I'll tell you my thought process is really social media, I feel can be a little bit more broader in certain aspects, where I could probably target a larger area than that specific neighborhood that I'm farming. Or would you recommend that the best rate of success really is to hyper focus all of your efforts, including all of your social media, to be driven specifically to that community?
Great question. So it's a little bit nuanced in the sense of I would have to understand the community, your database, your farm and business to give you a really valuable answer. But at a high level, social doesn't allow you from a paid standpoint to go smaller than 15 miles from a radius standpoint. So I would 100%, what I recommend to people, what we do for clients is create a custom audience within Facebook. So when we create a list for you of, let's say, 1,000 names, we'll take that list with the email addresses that came with it, upload it to Facebook to see who we can find based upon their email address and try to serve ads in front of them in a way to kind of get that frequency illusion to happen. And then content wise, I would 100%, if you can, post local content. Because even though it's not necessarily going to apply to every community, the fact that they see you're engaged locally will help elevate the brand. But it depends. The reason why I say it's nuanced is because like a business page on Facebook gets very little reach. It's like 0.01% to 0.02% that they will show to your following from a business page standpoint. So you're better off now on your personal profile posting than actually your business page. Your business page is actually more of a business card for you, which you need it. It should have reviews. It should look professional. You should have content being posted all the time. But I wouldn't worry if I were you on, am I posting content that's actually going to get people to engage? Because Facebook's not really showing your content to anybody unless you pay to play. So that's just a little bit off the top of my head. What I would share with you is I would go stay local on your content if you can, run ads to a custom audience that's your farm if you can afford it. But I wouldn't overthink, do I do this specific content to this community or this? I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference in the end.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Better strategy. Sorry, Andrea. Better strategy would be to friend everybody in your farm, like as a goal. Like that, like if you're doing a community event or going door knocking, is try to friend them on social, because that's actually what matters, because then they'll see your stories. Then they'll actually see your content from a real person standpoint. And then YouTube would be a better social strategy, I think, right now for just building your brand from a community standpoint. So a good hack on YouTube. And then we can jump is go to Google and start typing in your community real estate and see what suggestions pop up. Real estate agent in your community and see what else pops up, because that's what people are searching for your community. That's what you should make content about. So like what pops up on Google for the local schools? Are there any videos? Go make a video on that. What pops up on Google for the local restaurants? Go make a video on that. Like I kind of do that content strategy from a social standpoint. But that
What
gets
about,
kind of in depth.
What about for people to start following you on social to send mailers with, you want to know more about this subject, scan the QR and takes you to your social media, and indirectly they're gonna start following.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. We do what we call lead magnet landing pages, where it's an item of value, which is usually a PDF download, like a home buyer's guide or something like that, behind a form. So scan QR code, post that on your story, right? You know, or post that on a post, comment this word. We did a episode with Lindsay Joe on our podcast. Lindsay Joe is also a contributor on Broke Agent Media, and she is a killer at using ManyChat, MANY chat, ManyChat, to auto generate basically DMs to people with an item of value. It works really well. She built a huge email list from her Instagram following from that. So it's pretty awesome. So
thank you so much, Josh. I'm thinking of Josh. Josh is his partner, just so you know.
That's my partner, yeah.
Yes.
He's the better half anyway, so no insult, no.
Thank you so much, Luke. We're definitely gonna have you back. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you, and hope to